You really shouldn't skip the Legends mode in Ghosts of Tsushima. It's a very unique experience that is quite different from the base game, with multiple game modes, classes with special abilities, and even an endgame raid. We'll tell you everything you need to know right here, like the fact that you actually take a few cosmetic items with you from the base game. But apart from that, Legends is completely different. In fact, apart from those few cosmetics, your progression in this mode is completely separate from the base game. The first time you boot it up, you'll need to go through a tutorial which teaches you about the mode's 4 different classes. And it's important to get a feel for which one you like best, as at the end of the tutorial you pick your starting class and need to level that first to unlock the other ones. The Samurai is your basic sword fighter who has the ability to drain the life of nearby enemies or enhance his sword with various effects. Each class also has an ultimate, and in the Samurai's case it's Hachiman's Fury, a series of quick and powerful katana slashes that hone in on enemies. If you want to be tanky and use powerful melee attacks, this is the one for you. The Hunter is the complete opposite, focusing more on the bow as their main source of damage. They can use explosive arrows or summon a spectral archer to help them out, and their ultimate allows them to lock onto 3 targets and deliver a guaranteed headshot. The Ronin is the support class who can revive downed allies from range with his ultimate Breath of Izanami. It can also summon a spectral dog as a companion, drop down a healing incense, or use a firebomb to ignite nearby enemies. And finally, the Assassin is the stealthy class, being able to re-enter stealth with their Vanish ability. There are several variants of this, including one that heals you and your allies. But the Assassin's most powerful ability is their ultimate Shadow Strike, which allows you to deliver 3 powerful strikes in a row and also teleport you close to your enemy. By playing the different game modes, you'll level up your class, which unlocks new techniques that offer new abilities and passive buffs, and it eventually allows you to unlock the other 3 classes as well. From the start, you'll be able to pick from 3 different game modes. I think the best place to start are the 2-player story missions, as these play out pretty much the same as a story mission in the base game. There are a lot of new mechanics in play though, most of which are specifically designed to make you work together. So stick close to your buddy and also keep an eye out for the special Gyosen Scroll and Oni chest that add some extra rewards at the end of a mission. Story missions, like most other missions, can also be replayed at a higher difficulty, which allows you to earn higher level gear. We'll get more into gear in a bit, but already good to know that in order to access these higher difficulties, you need stronger gear. The same is true for the survival missions, which take place on a large single map. You and up to 3 other players have to defend 3 points spread across the map for a set number of waves. You can actually see which point is about to be attacked because the icon will start blinking, so make sure you move in that direction once it happens. Every 3rd wave in survival will also be a boss wave, made extra tough thanks to the special modifiers that spice up the encounters. And while Legends does not give you the option to duel other players, there is a competitive game mode called Rivals that's actually a lot of fun. 2 teams of 2 compete to collect a resource called Magatama, which mostly drops from enemies and is the key to winning the mode. While both teams are on separate sides of the map, you can influence your enemy side of the field by spending Magatama on curses that make their life harder. By spending enough Magatama, you eventually unlock the final objective, where you need to defend a point from 3 waves of increasingly difficult enemies, and the first team that beats the 3rd wave wins the game. But don't worry, you can still get rewards if you lose. Winning only increases the resources you get, as does bowing to your opponent before the match, by the way, so you know, be polite to other people. And by the way, it would be awesome if you could leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it so far, and subscribe for way more Ghost of Tsushima content. Now, regardless of the activity, the main reward waiting for you at the end is of course new gear, and the gear system in Legends is quite different from the base game. Unlike Jin's weapons and armor, your equipped gear actually has a power score. So your character's total power level, or key level as the game calls it, is decided by the gear you equip, and that in turn decides if you are able to participate in higher difficulty activities. Each character has access to a katana, a ranged weapon, a charm, and 2 ghost weapons. In Legends, a katana has passive buffs, but it also determines which stance, or in some case stances, are available to you. So unlike the base game, you can't counter every enemy type with your katana alone, which makes your ranged weapons even more important. Some classes even have unique types of ranged weapons available to them, like the longbow for the Hunter or the bomb pack for the Ronin. Your 2 ghost weapons are also very versatile, giving you access to things like smoke bombs, caltrops, and kunai. And your charm provides some extra passive buffs so you can fine-tune your build. What is good to know though is that your equipment can be shared between characters, so if you have a good weapon on your Samurai and want to switch to Ronin later on, you can still use that same sword. This also allows you to quickly raise the key level of a secondary class without having to grind out new gear. Now you probably already noticed that armor isn't part of your gear selection, and that's because every armor piece in Legends is purely cosmetic. You can already preview every single piece of armor in the appearance menu, but you'll see that many of them are still locked behind challenges. So if you already spot a specific look you want, good to keep track of what you need to do for it. Some challenges are something you'll work toward over time, like killing a certain amount of Oni enemies, but some are tied to specific game modes or even specific difficulties. But as I already mentioned earlier, there are also some cosmetics from the main game that carry over, which includes most half masks and even the platinum dye version of the ghost armor. So you'll likely already have some options available when you jump into the mode, and then the more you play, the more cosmetics you unlock. These also include emotes and some pretty cool visual effects for your blade. And as you'd expect, the most badass cosmetics are locked behind the hardest of challenges, because Legends also has some proper endgame activities that will really put your skills to the test. For starters, there is a weekly rotation of nightmare missions consisting of a story mode level, a survival map, and a rivals map. All of these have a special nightmare modifier that makes them significantly more challenging, but upon your first completion, you'll be rewarded with a max level legendary item drop. So well worth it to try this out if you're up for the challenge, and both the maps and modifiers rotate weekly, which also resets your rewards so you can go for that legendary item again. But for the hardest challenge, look no further than the 3-part raid, The Tale of Io. This 4-player activity not only requires individual skill and a good build, but also a lot of teamwork and coordination. The first 2 parts basically play out as a longer and more challenging story mission, with mechanics now also requiring coordination between 4 players instead of 2. The 3rd part of the raid is a full-on boss fight against a demonic entity, which involves a ton of mechanics that also require you to really work as a team. But like with the nightmare missions, each completed chapter grants you a max level legendary item once per week, and once you've unlocked a raid chapter, you don't have to play the previous one to access it anymore, so you can start straight at the 2nd or 3rd part if you want. And believe it or not, but there's even a rotating nightmare version of a raid chapter called the Trials of Io, which you can only participate in once you've reached the max key level of 120. And getting there requires that you put in some extra work, because the maximum level an item will drop at is 110. The final 10 key levels are only unlocked through something called Mastery Challenges. From the modifications menu, where you can also reroll the attributes and perks on an item, you can choose to activate a Mastery Challenge on an item of key level 110. This binds the item to the class it's currently equipped on, meaning you can't swap it out between classes anymore. It also activates a challenge that, when completed, raises the key level of an item by 2. This triggers a new challenge until an item reaches the cap of 120. So quite the endgame grind if you're up for it, but it's well worth it, as getting an item to max level also allows you to put a 2nd perk on it. This requires another special item though, one that you can only get by cleansing special cursed items that have a small chance to drop from any activity. These always come with a debuff, so it actually makes the game harder, but they also have a challenge tied to them, which can cleanse the item if you complete it. Cleansed items become purified, and purified items are needed to unlock the 2nd perk slot on a max level item. So while it takes a lot of work, it will really help improve your chances in the raid and the nightmare difficulty activities. Subscribe for way more Ghost of Tsushima content, a like would of course help us out, and if you need tips for the single player, totally watch the video on your screen. I will see you in the next one, goodbye.